We're here with Alexandre Boulerice, the MP for Rosemont de la Petite Patrie in Montreal area riding. He's also the environment critic for the NDP. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
So, Energy East, this event tonight, we're chatting about a book that's being released on Energy East. Maybe if just for starting, if you can tell me just from your perspective, what was this debate like? How did you see, like, from start to finish, Energy East when it was presented, and how the government handled it, and how the review went?
Yeah, it was a passionate debate in Quebec for a long time, for many months, and we've learned a couple of things about that kind of project of pipelines. First, it's quite difficult to go through that process without a real social acceptability. If you have farmers, citizens, mayors against the project, it's going to be tough. And second, the assessment process has to be credible. And when the credibility of the board is put in question, and their neutrality and their expertise, this thing can derail really, really fast.
Okay, so moving on to like what we're experiencing right now. We had reported a couple of years ago about these meetings with Mr. Charest. Lynn Mercier was one of the people who met with him. She's now presiding over Trans Mountain. Is this problematic for you, or is it?
It's problematic on a couple of levels. The Liberal government just announced a couple of days ago that they will do again this process about the environmental impact in the Vancouver Bay on some species. We're talking about, whales.
Yep.
But when 2 on 3 person on this panel are directly from the oil and gas sector, it causes us a real problem, and it puts the credibility of all the process into question. So we saw that with Energy East. It's the same story with Trans Mountain, and I'm not even talking about the real meaningful consultation of First Nations.
Okay, Bill C-69. What is the NDP's view on this legislation right now as it stands?
There's it's a little step forward in the right direction, but there's a lot of problem with it. I will say 2 major problems: the beginning of the process and the end of the process, because they can decide if they will do an environment assessment or not, and it's completely arbitrary. There's no clear criteria which project will be, in obligatory, mandatory under this process. So it's a huge problem for us, because if a really important project is not subject to that kind of assessment, it means that they can go through and without any consultation. And after that, it's the end of the process, because even if the board is saying that project should not go forward, the minister by himself or herself can decide that she will not respect the recommendation of the board. So why doing all this?
Okay, so this process that we're having now with Trans Mountain, we have the legislation that will change the reviews, but you still have reviews 3 years after the government was elected that are still going under the old process. Is this a problem? Like, I mean, should there be delays on new reviews, or should the government have worked faster to fix the problem? What would you say is, yeah?
The Liberals literally drag their feet on that issue of C-69 or all the environmental assessment process, because we can see with the Federal Court of Appeal, their decision is directly because they use the old and broken Harper process. They are saying it's not the case, but if you read the decision of the court, they didn't do their homeworks, and it's I'm sorry about that, but it's a case when I can say we told you it's not going to work, but they did it, and now they are facing a wall. I don't know what they will do.
Where do all these debates, these reviews of legislation fit in terms of Canada's responsibilities to tackle an issue like climate change?
It's huge, because if we authorize more and more pipelines and we increase the production of bitumen and oil and gas, it will be impossible to meet our targets of the Paris Agreement or other international convention. And we have a responsibility as an industrial country who pollutes a lot to be first and foremost on this fight for the planet.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Alexandre.
My pleasure.